On February 28th, a girls' school in the city of Minab in Iran was bombed, and the claim is that at least 165 people have died, most of them being young schoolgirls. What happened that led to this is still being investigated, and I wanted to wait until more information comes out before I make this video. But given the reactions that I'm seeing online, I think we need to talk about this here now. I'm seeing some conflicting reports, but right now it's being investigated as possible intelligence failure, outdated intelligence regarding what that building was supposed to be, given that it was part of an IRGC base, or target misinformation. There are some other claims right now that are being made as well, but we have to wait and see. This event is now being used as the main political weapon against the current joint US and Israeli military operations in Iran against the Islamic Republic, which, if successful, is going to cause thousands and thousands of more schoolgirls turning into victims of the Islamic Republic by allowing the Islamic Republic to survive. So I think it's very important, for the sake of the liberation of the Iranian people, for us to discuss how to talk about what's happening here as a way to not let the death of these girls be used as a way to sacrifice thousands of others. The most important thing to communicate, obviously, here is the tragedy that has taken place here. That needs to be communicated before anything else. After that, we need to look at the known facts. There are still many unknowns, but here are the knowns. We know for a fact that neither United States or Israel target schools. We know for a fact that they do not kill children on purpose. We know for a fact that the Islamic Republic and its proxies do target children. We know for a fact that the Islamic Republic and its proxies use children as human shield. We still have to wait for the investigations, but it's another known fact that if at some point we realize that the Islamic Republic did this on purpose, that would not be a surprise. However, if this was also a mistake by United States, that would not be a surprise either. Unfortunately, this is a tragic cost of military operations. And if your standard is that no military operations that could lead to events like this should ever take place, then no military operations could take place at all, including the military operations that would lead to saving thousands and thousands of lives. Both the United States and Israel have the most moral armies in the world with the highest standard for protecting civilian lives. That does not mean that they do not make mistakes. If your expectation is zero mistakes, then you're expecting a standard that no army in the world could abide by. Whether this was a mistake or not, with more military operations, we will have innocent civilians dying. Unfortunately, in every military operation or war, you have to look at all the options and pick the option with the least loss of civilian life. And an option with zero loss of civilian life does not exist. And in many cases, doing nothing is not the option with the least loss of civilian life. Here's another known fact. Not taking military action against the Islamic Republic is not the option with the least loss of civilian life. Many people are pointing out that the same people who are pointing to the loss of life of these schoolgirls were silent when the Islamic Republic was killing tens of thousands of Iranian people. That is an important point to make, but it's important that you are careful in how you make that point. Because if you make that point in a way that seems that you're dismissing the tragedy that is the loss of the lives of these schoolgirls, then those same people will use your arguments as a way to show that people on our side have little care for human life if it doesn't fit our narrative. This is what somebody from that side might say. They might say that not all people are paying attention to all news. We weren't following the news when that event was happening, but we did notice this one, so that's why we're speaking out. They might also say, for example, as Americans, if they are Americans, is that our country was not involved in that, so that's why I wasn't following that news, but now our country is involved with this, so that's why I'm following this. And if your expectation is for me to follow all the news all the time, I'm pretty sure that there's some people suffering somewhere around the world, and you're not paying attention to that. I try to think of the best arguments that somebody from the other side might make and think about how we here will counter that. And this is important. This is not about just proving people who disagree with you wrong. This is not about winning arguments for the sake of winning arguments. This is about a political battle right now in the United States that if we lose it, President Trump might be forced to stop the military operations that is giving us the best hope for liberating the Iranian people before the operations reach their objectives. So my response would be that instead of pointing to specific individuals, I look at entire movements and the selective outrage that they're having. So if one individual, two individuals, three individuals, they might have their excuses. But when you look at the entire movement of Free Palestine or the Axis of Resistance, the Islamists, the leftists, all the people that show their outrage in the loudest possible way when the United States and Israel end up causing civilian casualties by mistake without targeting them, are nowhere to be found when terrorist groups are targeting civilians on purpose. Another point that needs to be communicated again is that based on their standard, no military operations would ever be justified because every military operation will have civilian casualties. And no military operation being ever justified is a ridiculous standard to have. Another point that we need to communicate is that if the Islamic Republic survives, the number of innocent victims of the Islamic Republic for years to come will be astronomically higher than the collateral damage of the military operations required to remove the Islamic Republic. As an Iranian, I want to tell Americans or Israelis who might be watching this that even before these military operations started, many people from Iran were communicating with me and others that they understand that they would have to pay such a price in civilian lives. And they understand that there is no avoiding something like this happening. And they still wanted the Americans and the Israelis to start these military operations. They knew it ahead of time, and they were asking for it. If you're an American or if you're Israeli, you should be proud of your military. There are no other countries on earth that take this much care to reduce civilian casualties. But no country can bring civilian casualties to zero. Don't let anybody make you be ashamed of your military. Both United States and Israel are great contributors to world peace and stability. And beyond just the citizens of Israel and United States, the entire world owes a huge debt to the men and women serving in the militaries of this country. Hopefully, once Iran is free and prosperous, we could rebuild our Artesh and become a contributing factor to world peace and stability as well. Let me know what you think. My name is Armin Navabi. I'll try to make videos like these every day. I'm Israel Chai. Javid Shah.